Good morning. This is Mike Billington with the LaRouche organization update for Tuesday, July 18th. I told you yesterday Harley Schlanger would be back today. He has been further waylaid, but hopefully he will be able to do the broadcast tomorrow. So I'm glad to say that the Green New Deal is under severe attack, hopefully terminal attack. First, it should be mentioned that these insane sanctions on Russia are destroying Europe and to some extent the US, but not Russia. The irony is that Europe has been forced to go back to using coal because of their suicidal attack on Russian oil and gas exports. Even the Green Party, a truly evil party in Germany, which besides being green is the leading war party, and raving anti-nuclear, which you'd think if they were against carbon, they would support nuclear energy, but they're not really this is not really about climate. It's about stopping scientific and technological development. So this party, which is of course anti-fossil fuels as well, has had to admit that maybe, just maybe, they will have to allow the last 3 German nuclear plants, which are scheduled to be shut down at the end of the year, making Germany have no nuclear power, the formerly great industrial nation of Europe. But they're agreeing that maybe they'll have to leave them stay open rather than calling on their population to freeze in the winter in order to save freedom and democracy in Ukraine. So we'll see if that happens. But most important, as you've all seen, the Dutch farmers who have been on a very serious protest for many weeks now, occupying the central cities, shutting down certain highways. We now have the German farmers supporting them, now the Spanish farmers, the Italian, Polish, and even Canadian farmers who are protesting in support of the Dutch farmers. They had a video on this yesterday, which was released, which showed clips from each of these demonstrations around the world. It began with quotes from Martin Luther King, calling for nonviolence, not passivity in terms of demands, political demands, but nonviolent militancy, which is the basis on which you can force change by people who are intransigent. And these farmers deserve everybody's support. Now, what they're protesting is not only the massive inflation, the inflated fuel costs, the general economic breakdown, but rather the green insanity behind what the Dutch government is doing. They are demanding the shutdown of 30% of the Dutch agricultural land and a culling of their herds by 30%. Now, take note that this country, the very tiny country of Holland, has 100 million livestock. It's the largest meat exporter in Europe, this small country, and the second largest exporter of food globally by value after the United States. Note also that, as we all know, the world is facing a famine of biblical proportions, according to the head of the World Food Program, David Beasley. The green agenda is Malthusian genocide. The claim is that nitrogen and phosphorus from animal waste, cow flatulence, and from fertilizers is destroying the environment. This is false. It's genocidal, as we said, but it's fake science as well. It's the same fake science that you can generate from a computer by computer programmers who claim to be scientists. It's garbage in, garbage out. They get what they want. This is the same as the lie that carbon is at the root of climate change, something which has been refuted by thousands and thousands of competent scientists over these last couple of years, but they're completely ignored. So what about solving the problem? Now, the G20, which was formed in 1999 after the huge global financial crisis of 97, 98, 99, in order to address global economic issues, food questions, and so forth, the real economy. Now, this G20 includes the G7, the formerly leading economies of the world, who like to think of themselves as the lords of the universe, But it also includes all 5 of the BRIC countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many other leading developing sector or global South countries, including Argentina, Indonesia, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and more. All of those countries joined with the BRICS in the BRICS summit that took place in China 2 weeks ago, right? And at that summit, they all denounced absolutely the bloc mentality, the us versus them, the East versus West that you're hearing from the US and the UK and their European assets, you might say. And instead are demanding that the globe, all countries, join together in a fight for peace through development in the policy like the Belt and Road policy coming out of China, that you develop the world as a basis for cooperation and peace. All right, the opposite of those who are refusing to discuss even the question of development and peace, because that's exactly what is happening at the G20. Now, they're planning to have a head of state summit in November, and the US and the UK are demanding that Russia be thrown out. Putin must not be allowed to participate with the good people of the rest of the world. And Indonesia has said, absolutely not. We will not exclude anyone. If you choose not to come, you choose not to come, but we are not going to exclude Putin or anybody else. So there were 2 pre-meetings, one for foreign ministers of the G20, which was in June, and one of the finance ministers, which happened last weekend. Now, at the foreign ministers meeting, as we've reported here before, did they discuss the economy, the pandemic, the question of collapsing development? No. Now, Blinken and the British Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, who is now one of the candidates to replace Boris Johnson. She plans to be Liz Caesar, I think, a leading war hawk. These 2 basically would not allow a serious discussion. All they did was rant, Putin, Putin, Putin. You must all join us in denouncing the horrible, unprovoked war by Russia against the democracy, proud democracy in Ukraine. This kind of nonsense. Lavrov finally just left the meeting and went and had private meetings with the leaders of the countries who were there to try to achieve something. And then after that, Blinken said, oh, no, everybody joined us in denouncing the Russians, and Lavrov couldn't take the heat, so he walked out. Joseph Borrell, I reported this the other day, but it's worth repeating, who is the sort of the foreign minister for the EU and who was attending, said after the meeting that, quote, the majority of the global South take a different perspective on Russia. The global battle of narratives is in full swing, and we are not winning. Blinken simply lied, and his cohort actually called him out as a liar. So then we had the finance ministers meeting last weekend. And before the meeting, Indonesia's finance minister, Sri Mulyani Indrawati, a quite good economist and a decent person, called on the participants to work together in a spirit of what she said of cooperation, collaboration, and consensus to address the actually pressing world problems, food insecurity. And then she said, because the world is watching us, the cost of our failure is more than we can afford. Did they pay any attention to that wise statement? No. Janet Yellen and the fanatic Canadian Chrystia Freeland, who is their foreign minister and also deputy prime minister. She's from Ukraine, and she's been in the forefront of the ranting against Russia all along. The 2 of them did exactly what Blinken and Liz Truss did. Putin, Putin, Putin. We will not talk about anything else about you must join us in denouncing Russia. So the result was nothing was accomplished. No joint communique. Indonesia instead wrote what they call a president's report, basically identifying the fact that the meeting was sabotaged and nothing was achieved. Now, Helga Zepp-LaRouche over the last weekend issued a call for ending these sanctions now. They're illegal under the laws agreed to by the US and everybody else after World War II at the United Nations. These unilateral sanctions have no basis in law. They are purely criminal in nature. And she called for ending them now as at least a step towards ending the disaster now facing the entire human race. Interestingly, the acting president in Sri Lanka, you all know what's happening there. The president Ramaphosa was literally driven out of the country by enraged citizens after the country was forced into default. They cannot import food or fuel. And the Prime Minister Wickremesinghe took over as acting president. And he said yesterday, do you think sanctions will help? They will only drag the prices up. The sanctions won't bring Russia to its knees, but it will bring the rest of the third world to its knees. Now, remember, the nations refusing to join in the anti-Russia hysteria includes all of Africa, all of South and Central America and the Caribbean. And in Asia, the only countries joining the sanctions are Japan and South Korea, which are, after all, occupied countries, and Singapore, which is pretty much a British banking outpost in Asia. The rest of the world is united against this insanity. Russia, China, India, all of the ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries, Africa, South America, they want development, not war. So this really brings home the message from the English poet Percy Shelley in his poem, The Mask of Anarchy. I encourage you to read the entirety of The Mask of Anarchy, but the final verse, very famous final verse, is certainly appropriate for a time like this. It reads, "Rise like lions after slumber, in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth, like dew which is in sleep has fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few." So I hope you can join us tomorrow. Harley Schlanger should be back. If not, then I or Jason Ross will be here with the tomorrow update. Thank you.